folks. Yeah, welcome back. Yes, I say back. Refreshed, revived, ready to go again. Some never stopped, I guess. Some just carried on from that Cricket World Cup, and the merry-go-round just keeps going. But I suppose a World Cup wrap is in order. And first up, gotta say, doff your cap to the Australians. They are absolutely amazing. It's incredible how they just know how to do it. They get it done. How many people would have been sort of sitting there and saying, right, that's it. That's them done for this one. They're not going to win this one. And even as the resurgence sort of seemed to begin, nobody really would have looked past India. Not in India, not in those conditions, not in the way that India were playing, not in the way that each of their players were playing. It looked impossible. Somewhere along the line, I think I said the only team that's going to beat India is India. And that was because you just sort of felt it was them who had to mess up rather than one of the other teams beating them. Maybe, thought about it with the way South Africa were going, maybe, but they were obliterated in Kolkata, so it was just one of those, in the big moment, maybe not South Africa. But guess what? In the big moments is exactly when Australia stand up. So from the proverbial ashes, they rose once again, and like they've done for decade after decade, they showed us exactly how it is done. They applied a pressure that I suppose hadn't been applied sufficiently or for consistently long enough to the would-be champions. And in fact, when you think about it, you go, well, many were ready to give India the trophy way before. Sort of halfway through, you thought, well, no chance, right? I had a few conversations with a few people in India who are fans and obviously quite happy with how the team was going, who said, hey, there's no ways, nobody else can, right? And I said, shall we give you the trophy now? Why don't we all stop right here? And everybody heads home and India does kind of this victory lap. Hey, the lesson in that is exactly why we watch tournament sport. Because I don't think many would argue if we said the final is a best of three. I don't think many would argue that India would win 2 out of the 3 games. But can you stand up in the crunch of it? And the final is the crunch of it. Australia managed to do it 2 in a row. Think about this, that they had been beaten by South Africa many times in the lead up to that semi-final. But in that crunch moment, they managed to stand up. They managed to make sure they got it done, and it really didn't look like it was in doubt. Yes, it got close, and South Africa would have wanted, 30, 40, maybe even 50 more runs, and would have got the job done. But that's the whole point. They didn't get those runs, and Australia managed to get themselves over the line somehow. And then in the final, put a game together that you thought, well, they're not able to do this. Because even some of their victories you watched and you thought, well, Maxwell's bailed you out there, yes, in Delhi, yes, in Mumbai, somebody else bailed you out there. So, you look like a kind of house that's rocking. It's on stilts and it's going to fall down soon. It nearly did. There were 2 losses from 2, were nearly 3 losses against Sri Lanka, and somehow came back. So, yeah, brilliant. Not exactly, I guess, how you'd say you want it done, but it doesn't matter how you start. That's how you finish. It's whether you've got the job done or not, whether you've finished or not. And they finished all right. So, congratulations once again to the Australians. Special mention, Travis Head, injured, that hand broken. You would not have thought that, he'd make it. I remember that was in South Africa where he broke his hand. and in such fine form too. He's been such a good player for Australia, not just in one-day internationals. Take any format you like. World Test Championship, think about that. And so they trusted the medical people, first of all, that he'd be okay, he'd be ready to play at some point in the tournament, and that when he was ready to play, they'd still be in the tournament and still have a chance in the tournament. And he turned up and turned it around, 100 to begin. And hey, it was his first World Cup. How good. Just how good, refreshingly good to watch him, and the way, and it takes courage. I mean, people think, this guy goes out there and absolutely smacks it and doesn't matter. But such high risk means, you gain a great deal, but you can lose a great deal because you can go 2, 3, 4 games without scoring because you're attacking it, aren't you? Think back, actually, I'll take you into a bygone era and think of Ramesh Kaluwitharana and Sanat Jayasuriya when they started playing that way. Think of one of the greats in the game, Virender Sehwag, when he played that way. It's high risk, but it's also particularly skillful at the top of the order to put everybody to the sword. In recent times, he wasn't at this World Cup, but Jason Roy for England, magnificent. Just take it on up at the front, and it makes it difficult for the rest of the side. So, and actually in that final, Travis Head calmed it down, didn't he? He actually saw it through, tempered it, and made sure that he went attack when it was necessary and wasn't reckless. And I suppose it was a kind of study in how he looks at it and how he does it. It's not just crash bang wallop. It's calculated. Yeah, brilliant. Certainly close to it. If a man at the tournament is supposed to be the one who kind of wins the tournament, he'd have got that vote. But he wasn't there the whole tournament. And Virat Kohli had a magnificent tournament. They fell over at the last hurdle, which is unfortunate. Records and all that, fabulous, great to watch. Other notable mentions, I guess, in that Australian side, Cummins had to take it on the chin the whole time because his side not going well, and so the laundry is aired, isn't it? When the dirty laundry, when things aren't going so well, and many pointing fingers and saying, is he the right captain? Is he the one to take them to the title? Is he leading them correctly? Are they playing for him? Are they not? All of that stuff went on, and somehow he kept his troops together, and in the end he is a victorious captain, a victorious and a World Cup winning captain, like a few other special names in Australian cricket folklore, right? Brilliant. Yeah, well done. Zampa, special mention. I think that's important. Picked as the sole spinner and pressure well on, and did more than enough, actually, I think. Even though in that final you might have thought, not a great deal done, but I think throughout the course of the tournament, yeah, he did well. They stuck to their men, and I suppose that's a lesson in itself. Back people, stick to them. They know their job, they know what they're trying to do, and you can get there if you do that, and they'll believe because you believe in them. The question at the end of it, actually, and I wonder what you think about this, is what about 50 over cricket? Where are you on it? Having watched the World Cup, are you happy with it? Do you think it should continue? Is it good? In watching, there were some games that were high scoring that were good to watch, but generally the lower scoring ones, or not so high scoring, I should say, were the ones that you wanted to watch because they got exciting. They were good games, they were tighter games. Has there been a case put forward for 50 over cricket? Because before we went to the World Cup, many kind of were, this format, this, that, and the other, yeah, I don't know, some would say it's boring, some would say it's too long, some would say, rather 2020 cricket. But as we discovered, whilst within it, there is the space for 2020 cricket skills to be used and to perhaps excite. There is also definitely the first part, which is the foundation of it, which says there is the test side, technical and kind of stickability and longevity, staying in the course, of the game, as it were, to ensure that you play cricket and you withstand whatever's coming at you for long periods of time before you can set up what might be kind of 2020 scenarios, I don't know, in 10 overs and 15 overs and 20 overs, depending on where you are batting wise or bowling wise, as it were. Yeah, it's a good test, and it's kind of a good game as far as I am concerned in terms of its unfurling and unfolding when there is a good contest on. Admittedly, many of the contests, many of the games ended up kind of one-sided. If one team scored a whole lot of runs, then they effectively battered the other side out the game. And that's, I suppose, worrying. Perhaps it speaks to this, inability to withstand and to keep oneself in the game because of, I don't know, a 2020 influence, a 2020 thinking, and the necessity for players, some players who are particularly suited to, yes, there's the high scoring, but also batting longer periods of time and staying in a game. Can't sort of give up the ghost just because the team gets 400. It means there's got to be a way to do that, and the blend of the longer game and the shorter game together are needed in order to get such a big score. And so it seems to me anyway, it can be and should be the perfect blend of the other two formats, and could be particularly interesting when played optimally. I don't know. I ask because sounding the death knell before it, before the World Cup, and I wonder if the thoughts are still the same. You can kind of let me know. Let's chew the cud. Let's talk about where we go with it. Things suggested. There's one thing I'd say in terms of time. It is absolutely necessary that speed of play is increased. Maybe a few more timed outs. I don't know. But yeah, overrate and get the game done in the period of time that it's supposed to be done. It shouldn't be taking 4 hours per innings. It shouldn't be. Take the stipulated time, have a time clock or whatever it is, and yes, field restrictions and sort of penalties with the fielder coming in help things, but teams still transgress and seemingly don't mind. And the leeway, I think, from the umpires and the match referees perhaps is too much. Maybe that's what kind of needs to be sorted. No leeway. Get your overs in. Everybody get in, and 3.5 hours, you're done. Move along. And it is incumbent on the team, their responsibility that's out in the field to make sure that they're ready and they get the overs bowled. I suppose that's something to look at. The other thing is the ball. For bowlers, right? Get the bowlers back in the game at the back end. I think it's just a different game when the ball's reverse swinging. It's and I think it keeps everybody primed. Whether you're a spectator, whether you're a batter waiting to go in, whether you're a batter who's in once it starts reverse swinging, and then it keeps the bowlers in, right? Because fast bowlers can now operate from sort of overs 28 somewhere there, and the ball starts to reverse. They're in the game, and then you don't get 400 and plenty all the time. You sometimes When you've got 260, 270, it's difficult to get because the ball starts to reverse swing. So yeah, some say 34 overs and then just the one ball, pick which one. And I guess that's a fielding team picks which ball, because you start with the two and then for those last 16 overs just use one, and it certainly will start to go, and that'll be good. Maybe that gets it exciting. I don't know. Yeah, that's it for now. Actually, that's all the thought that's going on in my head. Something was said by a colleague, a friend, brother man, big man, that it's worth a study to kind of, how do you get a winning team, a tournament winning team, like the Aussies seem to keep doing. I think a deep dive is required into what the factors are that kind of have teams ending up as championship teams, when it comes to it, to tournaments, are able to turn it on. I don't know that you can find a definitive answer, because there's so many of these factors. I mean, starting with, you need the talent within a squad, but then at the tournament you also need to bring it, as it were, and then within that tournament at the right times you need to bring it. But there are no real guarantees, and maybe there are little subtleties somewhere that aren't obvious, being subtleties, and could divulge, could let us in on why and how these teams that keep doing it, like Australia, why and how they do it. Leave you with that. There's a lot in there. We'll catch you next time. And yeah, back fresh, as I said. Hope you're fresh and ready to go. Never stopped, I know. Some never stopped. Australia and India. England off to the West Indies, start imminently. New Zealand and Bangladesh. India coming to South Africa. Zimbabwe playing as well soon. Ireland, I think they play again. It's, all on. Never stops. But hey, that's good. There's more cricket to watch. Catch you next time.